Well, good morning, everybody. Today is May the 22nd, 2015, and it is Friday. It is time for WxLive webinar number 150 with Andy Stapleton. Today he's going to be showing us how to patch our WD apps. So it's all yours, Andy.
Morning. It's a Friday morning, and it's just before Labor Day, so if you're not packing to go somewhere,
Memorial
sucks to be
Day.
you. Huh?
Memorial Day.
That's this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, Memorial Day.
I know.
You said Labor Day.
Okay. Look, I'm winging it here, okay?
Have to.
It's not like I got a script in front of me or something, okay?
No teleprompters here. Have a good one.
Teleprompter. Yes, I blew it. I need to be the prez. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great Memorial weekend. Put out your flags. Tell everybody, enjoy. Nobody will be around. I'm going riding my Harley. One of the things everybody's talked about is how to do upgrades, especially the binary upgrades. So a while back, when I was messing with the stuff, I'd gone ahead and taken the FTP class that is, or example that's currently in the example codes of WinDev, and started working with it, and between myself and Terry Mullican, built the whole FTP module in a class so it can be used, which works great. But it didn't quite do what I wanted it to do as far as an upgrade is concerned. So I took and stripped out some code out of the FTP class and built a component, which you guys can have, that basically what it does is it goes up and looks at an FTP to see if there's a new version of a particular product and says, you got a new version, downloads it, puts it in, and then restarts the program, so that way, rock and roll, you've got a whole new program. This had been done a different way for quite some time by Pete in previous lifetimes, and it is kind of based upon that same functionality, only we're using the binary patches now instead of doing the whole EXE as it was done before. The binary patches work quite well. Now, there's a couple of tricks with binary patches when you're working with them. Number one is that my install of a new version makes sure that all of those get deleted, so that way they're not laying around afterwards. And also, you will have to have a kind of a deal there to keep up with the number of patches you do in between the actual executables. Now, this DLL or this component here does not deal with you having a EXE patch. It only deals with the binary patches. I've yet to put anything in. I haven't had a need to. I've yet to put anything in there. It checks to see whether it's an EXE file and say, hey, you got a new EXE, download that and do a full install. That's probably something that needs to be done in the future, but I haven't done it yet. So what this is one class. I call it the upgrade class just because we're upgrading. And there is several things that we need to do with this. Number one is we obviously need to check to see if we got an upgrade at all. There's a system that I developed out on the web that basically goes through the projects that I have built and says, okay, for the GUI ID that you sent me, go find out whether or not that there is a project up there at all, and if there is, go get the version number, okay? And validate the license and go through all of that. That's the first thing that it goes through. The next thing it does is says, okay, let's go see whether or not we've got all of the FTP and download the files. If you don't run the licensing, which is what I'm doing here, you can eliminate this in the code because you won't need it. You just need the download file, because the download file will go up there and download all of the FTP information and then go get all of the files out of the FTP. So let's kind of go through this because this is kind of the primary piece right here. I'm getting the path length. This is where you're currently installed. I'm opening up and downloading everything that I need to have, and I'm doing a connection ID with the FTP address, the user ID, and password. Okay? I'm taking the current exe name, that's the current exe file name, and I'm stripping it minus the period and the .exe. So the only thing I'm getting is the name itself. I'm checking the version numbers against each other and making sure it's not my test running program so it won't do anything. And then I fill a list of all of the files on the FTP that match. That is a zip file or a WDL. Now the WDL is really what we're looking for. Okay? The WDL fills that list and says these are all of the patches that are currently up there for a program. So you can have a budget pro .wdl .001, 002, 003, 004. And it's going to say, I've got all four of these. The next step we do is we go validate that download. And what we're doing here is we're looking in the local directory and say, give me all of the files that are in the local directory. Okay? The local directory then will say, oh, I have that file name already, so delete it out of the file list that you just downloaded from the FTP. Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, but down in the local directory, I got 1 and 2. So what remains is 3 and 4. 3 and 4 then, if I've got anything in it, I'm going to download both of those 3 and 4 files. Okay, so let's kind of back the truck up again and go through that. I've got, as an example, I've got 4 files in the FTP directory, 001, 2, 3, and 4. When I go through this section, I'm looking at the local directory, and I have 001 and 002. So that remains now in the array to download 3 and 4. This code right here, if the file list is not empty, then I'm going to open up my window that says, hey, I'm upgrading, which is this, checking for possible upgrade. And I'm going to, for each file that's left in there, I'm going to download that file. I'm going to do an FTP get, and I'm going to download the file. Once it's already downloaded, and the only thing I need to do is restart the program. Restarting the program then will implement or bring in those binaries into the current exe, and you now have already got your upgrade done for the binary patches. Okay, so this is not particularly rocket science here. The only thing you had to think about is that you're comparing 2 directories of a certain file name, and you want to make sure that the only thing you're downloading is what you currently don't have in your local directory. That's what this purpose is for. That's all it does, is to make sure that's down, then restarts the program. Once you're done with that, you're done. You're finished. That's all there is to it. Okay? That's the whole class is now finished. So let's go into the upgrade. The only thing I'm doing here is I'm sending arguments. So I've defined and instantiated the upgrade class. Okay, I got a question. I have a client considering purchase the native access. Up till now, we've been using.
No,
oh, that's not for me. That's for something else, isn't it?
Yeah, it's for something else.
Okay, sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
I thought you were going to talk about one of these guys asking a question. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, so instantiate the upgrade class. We check for upgrade and say, yep, we're going to check for the upgrade. We've passed in the values for the EXE, the FTP address, the password, the user ID, and the port number. Then, in essence, we're looking for the upgrade, and we go find the last upgrade, which is doing your making sure what you got there. That says this is the last file that we upgraded with 004. Okay? And once we're done, we're done. We're finished. This whole thing is done. There's nothing to it. So the question is how do you get it to creating the binaries? Well, that's not entirely difficult either. In creating a binary, you go to your exe. Let's take this one step further. Okay. This is the GUI ID that I store into a database of this particular application. So that way, this is for the validation of the license. You don't need this for the upgrade stuff. You can skip by it if you're only going to use the upgrade for one single license. You don't need to check licenses. The FTP address, you got the user ID and whatever the password is. Then you see all I do is a Win upgrade, and this is in the project code is where it is. That's all I'm doing here. The component is right there. So all I'm doing is including the component, and I'm calling the upgrade features to it and opening up the window. The window doesn't display unless it finds something. As far as generating out a binary, what you need to do is you go to Project, you go to Patch, and you create a library patch. Step through this. Here's the key. You can see I've created 2 patches before already, 1 and 2. I can eliminate all the history, and before you do an exe, I would eliminate all the history, okay, because there's no sense in having that. You want to check everything here that you've changed. It will not check it automatically. It will not check it automatically, but you want to check everything here that may have already changed. What I usually do is check all on the first one, and then if I need to uncheck anything on the second, third, that's when I do that. But the first one, I always check all. Okay? Once you do that, you hit your next, and the patch is complete, and all it's going to do is compile. You can see it created a Budget Pro WDL003 successfully. Last thing I do is put it on my FTP. Once it's on the FTP, the next time the person operates the program, every time he starts up the program, it's going to go through that process and check for a patch, download it, and install. Caveats to this, problem things that you may run into. UAC, user access control. If you have a patching system like this, that's going to be the bane of your existence. It's been a pain in the butt. So you have to make sure that the individual has sufficient privileges to download via FTP these files to the directory of your exe. So if you're installing them in the program files, A6 or program files directory, then you must have sufficient privileges to create files in those directories. That is a key point about this. Otherwise, it won't download. It's useless. Okay? So that's one of the things you need to make sure you're doing. So, as just an overall steps, to go over this again, because this is not a very long little process here, and I'm going to give you all the source code, so if you have any questions, just start hollering. You're going to have an FTP site is what you're going to have, or FTP site. You're going to create binaries through your project, through your patch project. You're going to put them on the FTP site. That's what you're going to do. This process here is going to get all of the files for your exe and compare them against locally, all of the files locally. If it finds any remaining that you do not have locally, it's going to download them and restart the program. That's it. That's all it's going to do. Anybody confused? Anybody still out here?
We are here.
Yeah. Hey, Wolfgang. Anyway, like I said, it's really not very hard at all. The biggest thing is having your, get your UAC set up. That's all there is to it, getting the UAC set up.
I can imagine the USC is always a problem.
Yeah. Now you get the licenses. Go ahead. I mean, there's several of them. I use Setup Builder to build my installs, which I think is very, very nice. Now, the only thing in the Setup Builder or whatever install package you have, make sure it deletes all *wdl.* files, so that way all your patches are gone when you do a new install. And make sure you get rid of them out of your FTP too if you do put out a new install, because if you got them on your FTP, guess what it's going to do? It's going to download them again. So make sure they're out of there too. Okay? So the only thing you have to be careful of when you do this is you have to make sure you've removed them out of your FTP, you removed them out of your local directory when you do a brand new install, so that way it won't re-download them again. That's the only thing you have to do. Okay? Other than that, the rest of it's pretty easy.
Yeah, it's easy if you've got the code.
You're going to have the code too. I'm going to give you the code. How's that?
That's a good weekend then.
See? Life is good, isn't it?
Oh,
Even
yeah.
Art says nope. So we're good. Now, everybody can have this except Art. Just because I want to pick on Art. All right. I'm not seeing any questions up there. I don't know if I'm looking in the right place or not. I'm probably not. I don't think I have it up right at the moment. There's Q&A. Okay, I got it in the right place now. Okay. I have it in the right spot.
Doesn't look like there's any questions.
Doesn't look like there's any questions. Well, let's talk about other things.
Okay, there is a question now. Art is asking, what is your opinion on PC software distribution and patches?
I think it's probably the slickest thing in the world, because one of the things that I've seen over the years is binary patches for a long time. And I always wanted to do them because it seems to me that if I have a bug or two, I don't have to stop, everybody from doing everything. I can move forward. So from a developer's concept of how to do things, I think that the binary patches work very, very nicely. Now, they use a separate program. The WD update is what they use to do the patches for their, for the IDE, which I'm sure you can certainly write a separate program to do that. I chose not to, because this is something that Pete has done for years. Basically, at startup, he goes up there and sees if there's a new version and says, okay, stop, you got to download the new version, or it tries to download it as a zip file and unpack it, which works, and it worked for years. The binary patches, I don't really have to do that much. Now, one of the things that it doesn't do, that maybe it's me, I'm not sure, but it doesn't change the version number. It doesn't change the patch number on the end. Okay. Other than that, I think it's very, very nice methodology. I think that probably the UAC is the biggest thing that drives me crazy trying to deal with, and it's mainly on my wife's machine, because that's about where I use this right now, is patching stuff for her. So usually it's the UAC that's going to reach up and bite you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only thing I've noticed. But if you go away from using program files, that kind of helps a lot. But
yeah, but that kind of
but at
does.
the same time,
Yeah,
you don't want to do it because most users don't know not to download stuff and do silly things. And if you
That's
start
right.
doing that, you might just end up causing some other problem.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of programs now. They're just going to the root C drive, and installing there and telling you can have the program files all you want. I personally, if you don't want to deal with the program files, literally, I would probably start looking to install underneath the user itself.
The way mine is working is because I have that separate app updater app.
Yeah.
It's actually compiled. Its manifest says that it has administrative setup privileges.
Yeah.
That allows it to beat UAC, but that took a lot of fiddling to get that to work right at the bank because, you know, they had everything locked down to the.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how you get around it, is by having your installer program request administrative privileges.
So what are you using for the installer setup builder also?
No, it's my own. You know, it's that
Oh.
app updater executable.
No, I was talking about the installer itself.
I don't have any installer.
Oh, okay. You just put it on the program. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
Once my first version's out there, from then on, it's
Patch it.
right.
Gotcha. Well, Tim's still on the phone. So.
Okay.
No, I'm back.
Okay, he's back.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't think it'd be this short? This is a quickie.